It's just video. I want the set if I want the.
She wants the BTS.
I want the raw.
You got to put your mic on.
I am.
Okay.
We're going live, but we got a minute countdown.
Is it on?
Okay,
Yeah.
go live here.
Looks okay.
Yeah,
Huh?
So let's rock this.
Yes, girl.
oh, this is going live now. Yeah,
It's live? Okay.
What do we got?
They can wait over there.
Checking connection. Now we got 56. Now you're live here.
We are right now?
Over there, but we're going to start on that one. We're going to start on that one, right?
Yeah.
You ready? You too. Hey, Instagram Live.
1,000
Cameras.
phones and cameras.
Y'all getting some of the behind the scenes.
I know, right?
Make sure you're sharing, inviting someone. This is Key Talk with yours truly, Coach AmberJ. She came. Welcome to Key Talk with yours truly, Coach AmberJ, your go-to CEO, life coach, and wardrobe expert. We are on episode 3 of Key Talk. On this podcast, we talk about... Can we start all over? Okay, sorry. All right. Here on this podcast, we're all about unlocking the keys to a successful work-life balance. Together, we'll empower you to live your purpose and greatness. Join us as we dive into powerful conversations, dealing with past pain and trauma, and healing so that you can walk into the future. Today, I'm super excited about our guest that we have today as we are going into, like I said, episode 3. We have an amazing... This topic this month is, or this episode is Q&A with the coaches, and I have an amazing coach with me. Seclenda, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hello, everybody. Hey, girl. Hey.
Hey, girl. Hey.
We finally linked up and got together, so I'm so excited to join with you. I am Coach Seclenda, and I am a life organizer and business strategist, and I am here to give you the hot seat. And ask Miss Coach Amber a couple of questions, right?
Yes.
We're gonna bounce off a little bit. Then I'm gonna have a little rapid Q&A later on. Ask some surprising little questions just to kind of dive in deep of who we are, just as individuals, and get a little personal, right?
Yes.
All right. So I would like to ask you. I know you have answered a couple of questions before, but we're just going to act like it's just brand new, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And this is also for the viewers who have not seen maybe one or two. So we're going to give a little bit more of in depth. So what inspired you to be a coach?
So what inspired me to be a coach actually was just the inspiration of my own life. I was seeking to find something different. I woke up, I think in episode 1, kind of woke up and just realized like this can't be my everyday life. Like going to work, coming home, like I felt purposeless, even though I had all the things that people say should make you happy and feel fulfilled. So I really went on just a discovery of really, who am I? What do I need? And as I began to ask myself these questions and start researching and YouTubing, I came across this phenomenal coach. Her name is Chanel Cooper Sykes. And I binge watched her. I'm like, oh my God, like this is everything that I've ever imagined my life to be. And she also was a coach, personal development, empowerment, confidence coach. And she really summed up for me what a coach was. And it made me think like, oh my God, I kind of been doing this my whole life.
Your whole life, right.
I've always been the solution person.
Yes.
If you have a problem, okay, what we gonna do now?
Go-to.
Like what's the go-to? Yep, call to problem solving. And so in 2013, that was kind of when I started my discovery, and then I went into just really diving deep into myself, and then I was led to move to Las Vegas, and that's where I heard the word clear as day, like coach. And in that time, I was in a major life transition. I was relocating, just in the middle of a divorce, starting brand new. And so I really had to, like, I heard that and I'm like, how am I going to coach someone? But it started with my own self. I had to coach my own self. And that's kind of the journey of where coaching began.
Right. I resonate with that completely and 100 and 1,000%. I'm also the go-to person.
Okay.
Yeah. And I was shaky about becoming a life coach because I had dealt with, when I looked at life coaches, I just perceived them to be, kind of button up, and I knew everybody had their story, but I just didn't feel like maybe they resonated with me, coming from childhood trauma, and dealing with toxic relationships, that I felt like maybe I don't have the right to be in the coaching space. But then I met somebody who says your experiences, and then we talked, and you said as well, like, what better person to help clients than someone who has actually dealt with trauma or any type of healing, and a background of just different experiences. And I have a worldwide of experiences of a lot of different things. And I hesitated becoming a coach until I met somebody who was just, again, your experiences. So I was actually building my business while I was going through a divorce as well.
Oh, wow.
And so it pushed me to keep going further. And I just kept doing brick by brick until I formulated my business. Yeah.
It's awesome too. I want to kind of go into that because what better qualifications could you have than experience? And when we think about, I know people that have college degrees and they get out of college, they graduate, and then they go apply for that dream job, and they're like, well, do you have experience? Right. And so you may have the degrees and the accolades, but if you don't have the experience, a lot of places won't hire you, even if you have the degree. So I think what anyone that may be dealing with that guilt or that shame, or maybe questioning or doubting themselves, think about that. Your life experience is way more valuable than a hands-on or a book. And to be honest, everything that I was trained for as a coach, I've never applied in my business because it's not relatable. Yes, you need some foundational tools, and it's important to have those certifications and have the knowledge. But my experience supersedes any of the training that I ever received. So I just want to encourage anyone that may come across that to know that you don't wait until you get the degree, or don't hesitate until you feel like you're qualified, because you're already qualified.
Right. I always think about that, like when you have a doctor and they're book smart, but they never worked on anybody.
Yeah.
And then they want to come and work on you in practice. It's like, wait a minute, but do you have the experience?
Exactly.
Taking me apart.
Right. Cutting me open and slicing me. Yeah.
I know that's just something that, so I most definitely get that. What kind of clients come to you for their services? What do you really attract? And they're like, oh, I think I want to work with Coach Amber. What do they tell you?
So most of the time, people that are attracted to me initially, it started with the wardrobe, confidence, branding, image. And then when we start to have a conversation, they're actually in the middle of a transition, and transition is just change. So they're ready to start a new business, or they're leaving their 9-to-5, or maybe they just got divorced. So there's some kind of life transition that's taking place, but they normally don't start with that, because I don't think sometimes we identify that we're in a transition.
The background.
Yes.
The noise back here that they avoid.
Yes. So I think what normally people are attracted to is the imaging, the branding, the confidence, showing up consistently in my business is where a lot of them start at.
Right.
How about yourself?
For me, I think through my social media and how I put myself out there and express myself, it is mostly dealing with trauma healing. So I get a lot of women who are from the LGBTQ community, which is where I'm from as well. And also women who dealt with having their voice taken away in some way, shape, or form. Whether they're in a marriage and, they don't know how to fully express themselves. They're being kind of like cut down low, or from childhood trauma that has happened, that their voice has been taken away and they feel like they can't be heard.
Yeah.
And that is something that is real dear to me, because I've also experienced that. And it took me years to get my voice back. I'm always the type of person who looks at somebody in the eye. And then I remember my first marriage. I got married at 22. When we got divorced, I came back to California and realized that I wasn't looking at anybody in the eye. Like, I felt so cut down and I didn't even know.
Right.
And when I caught it, I said, we have to change that.
Yeah.
So I most definitely get women who want their voice back.
Yeah. It's important too. I know I've had my voice silenced, not through intimate relationship, but through different friendships, business partnerships, where I silence and like, oh, maybe I shouldn't do that, or the opinions of others, right? Like they'll say like, oh, maybe this or that. And one of the things that I've dealt with is, since I was young, and it's so like ironic that I've always been over the top. Like, I will be dressed up with heels on at a kid's birthday party, and people are like, why are you dressed up for a birthday party? And now I get paid to dress people, right, for the things that someone tried to belittle or silence me in. Even the wardrobe component, I just recently really have been, I've always had that component in my business, but it was not the forefront of it. And I fought for a long time. And then I really recently reflected on, why don't I like to do this?
Right.
And I made like, oh, because you were shamed so much about being overdressed. Like, why are you always dressed up? So
I know that one.
Yeah. So it's like the same thing that people will silence you for is the gift that really creates who you are.
It really is.
Yeah.
And they actually admire that.
Yeah.
So that comes from something in their background that they need healing.
Key. Listen, if you're listening, key points that, and I think that it's really, really important that you become self-aware, right? Because a lot of times we're projecting, right? We're projecting onto other people, and we may not be aware of it, but in this day and time, like, it's so important that we begin to be self-reflective before we point fingers.
It's almost like bullying.
It is.
So when you get somebody who, I mean, we watch the movies, they always put that out there. There's always somebody getting bullied, and then what they show in the background is like they're getting bullied at home from a parent, a sibling, getting picked on. Like, they're really shamed at home, and then they bring it to the forefront and put it on somebody else. I'm not going to take it as in the bullying part, but my great grandmother raised me.
Okay.
And I didn't have my parents growing up. So a lot of my pain and my anger came from not having them.
Yeah.
But since my great grandmother was the first and closest to me, which she was my everything, my best friend. And I took it out on her. I couldn't.
You can receive the love.
Yeah. And I didn't know where to give that outlet to, and she gave me so much grace. And I remember conversating with her and apologizing to her, just going through that teenage stuff.
Oh gosh, yeah. Yes, I definitely can relate to that. I wasn't raised by my mother, and there was some of that anger, and as a child you don't understand.
Exactly.
Even in my book I talk about my early childhood experiences where my stepmom raised me, but there was kind of always like, I'm going back to my mom, right? And so there's that. So this is why coaches are here as well, and dealing with healing and trauma, because we have to be able to identify those things and then really process through them so that you can tap in and you're not walking around triggered, projecting, blaming, shaming, and guilting because yo-ish. Like, let's be honest, it's yo-ish.
Take it back. Here you go.
Here you go. Yeah. I actually recently did an exercise about taking my power back and releasing what didn't belong to me, right? Like, especially around, for me, growing up being a mixed child in a predominantly Black community, I always had so much shame and guilt about, like, you think you're too pretty, you're light skinned, you're this, you're that. And I had to like start taking my power back.
Yeah.
Listen, I didn't ask to be here, okay?
Right.
But since I am,
Yeah.
you know, so yeah, this is really important. And just to the audience, like, I really want you guys to take a moment and to reflect. Like, is there some things that maybe in your childhood that you haven't been able to identify or pinpoint? And now's the time. Take a moment to reflect and say, why am I in a cycle? Maybe why am I stuck or stagnant? And how can I want to move forward. I want to be able to connect to people. I want to love and have real relationships. Yeah. But that mean girl spirit in you, that angry bully man inside of you, like, really start checking yourself and deal with that. What's up with you? What's up with heart?
We're in 2024.
Right.
We have seen so many different things come to light, and it's like a banana. You know, when I get my clients, it's like, let's peel back one layer.
Yeah.
Let's peel back another one, get to that center core of what the deep-rooted issue is.
Right. Absolutely.
You know? And even in relationships, marriages and things like that, and I've dealt with it too. You know, you come together unhealed.
Yeah.
And then you wonder why you're unequally yoked. Excuse me. And then when you're in this relationship, you feel like it's kind of like towards you, but it's, again, what comes from the childhood.
Yes. One of the things that I've taken this year, 2024, is really understanding and applying, not taking things personal. Mm-hmm. Like, when I really, really started to understand what that meant, it's like what you're saying, or like you go to the store and the cashier has an attitude. She really doesn't have an attitude about you. Yeah. She may have had a bad morning that morning, crazy driver. Her boss is, said something, and she just projected it upon you. And so what I've started to do is like
take a step
back and say, oh, I hope you have a good day. Right. Like, so people can start to be able to identify and check themselves.
Start smiling at each other.
Yeah.
Start hugging. Call the person you have talked to. Said, like, there's so much love that's missing out of the world right now.
It's so much love missing.
We need to start bringing it back.
Absolutely.
Start healing, transition. And then, my biggest thing is living with purpose.
Yeah.
I think during COVID, a lot of people discovered that they weren't doing the things that they love.
Yeah.
They want to find something that they love to do. Because you're here on earth and you have to live the rest of your life. Even when I get, again, back to relationships, if you're unhappy in your relationship, do you want to stay in that? Or do you want to grow? Do you want to make it better? Let's start making the choices to either move on, fix it. Like, what are we doing, so we can move forward to the next step. So what kind of struggles do most of your clients have when they come to you? What have you noticed? Any repeated cycles?
A lot of my clients struggle with boundaries. They struggle with boundaries. Yeah, boundaries. Yes. I would say self-care.
Self-care is so
and balance, like, really. And I think when people think of balance, they think like the scale should be like this, never right? But real balance is basically being able to give yourself in all of the compartments without draining yourself, right? So maybe for me, I'm a single mother of 3 sons, right? I run a business, I work a full-time job, and I still coach people. So for me, balance looks different in every season and every area, right? One season I may be like, back to school just started, so I was heavily focused on my kids and them having everything they need and being present and showing up at their back to school night. That was balance for me in that moment, right? So that meant, okay, I'm not scheduling anything here, or this last weekend, balance for me was like, I haven't been out and socialized with my girlfriends or celebrated them in a while, so I'm gonna have a good weekend.